say, a scale of 1 to 10, 7 being the highest.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
There are no emergencies in the morgue.
Yeah, exactly.
Inaccurate.
Anyway, I'm going to basically look at... Amber just looks at Ghost and says, ready to go?
Yep.
All right. She'll scoop her up and be out the door, lightning speed out, and then fly on over.
Far less embarrassed this time.
Yeah.
When you get to the Commons, it's not too far, at least as the Amber flies. It's not too far from the headquarters. And when you get there, you can kind of see Froststorm. He's like hovering up in the air. His cape is like billowing behind him and everything like that. And he is essentially kind of watching a couple of storms the storm clouds are kind of swirling and starting to form over this area. It looks like it's starting to rain, but the temperature is also kind of dropping in this area pretty significantly. It's very noticeably considering the fact that it's the middle of summer. I don't think he sees you yet because he's kind of oblivious.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the way over, I filled Ghost in on basically my last encounter with him. And Jen, do you remember?
I do.
Okay. And folks in the audience should tune in to episode, I believe, number 1.
That was episode 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I say, why don't I drop you at the edge of the Commons, and you work to get the people at safety, and I'll distract him.
We'll start there. Sounds good.
Okay. And so that's what we do. I drop her off at the edge of the Commons, and then basically fly up, about 10 feet from his face and say, "Hi again! You ready to surrender?"
As you fly down to drop Ghost off, the temperature drops even more precipitously, and a lot of the raindrops that were falling have basically turned to like bits of hail and whatnot and snow. And by the time you get to the ground, there's already a thin layer of snow kind of covering things. People are definitely kind of panicking. Like, most people have gone inside and kind of like hovering inside like doorways and stuff like that. A few people are trying to like get out of the area and they kind of like slip and fall and someone helps them up. And after you drop Ghost off and you start flying back up, Amber, Ghost, you notice that the snow is sort of like shifting across the ground, and it basically like coalesces into several probably short humanoid-sized like sort of amalgamations of like snow and ice. They are not explicitly humanoid. Some of them have like 3 arms. Some of them have like 2 torsos and extra arms and stuff like that. But they're basically like these weird like snow and ice constructs.
Okay.
Amber, you can see Froststorm is kind of like watching all this unfold and seems pretty pleased with whatever's going on. And then he kind of like notices you as you fly up in front of him, and he says, "Oh, I remember." And then he snaps his fingers, and it's like the pressure in this area like increases exponentially, and you suddenly find it very difficult to stay in flight.
Well, conveniently enough, I have a stunt to resist pressure.
Oh, that's true. You do. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then,
it's a momentary wobble.
Yeah, exactly. He is going to take advantage of it, however, and he's going to basically like sort of start falling And as he does, a massive, like, all this rain and everything that's falling kind of freezes underneath him and creates a big slide. And he kind of hits it and, like, on his feet and kind of is, like, basically skiing down this thing to get away from you.
Which direction is he going?
Down towards the commons.
Okay.
Seems like he's trying to take the fight down to the street level.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of where things are going to kick into, like, fight mode. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and draw a card for sudden transformation. Can I use that? Should I use that? I don't know. So that's going to be the narrator card.
I mean, it kind of did. The snow suddenly transformed into monsters.
I guess that's true. Yeah, so that is, let's see. He's not the smartest. Okay, so he will, basically what he is going to do is he is going to try and freeze, like, basically encase Amber in ice while she's in midair. So that's what he's doing this turn. What are the two of you? Oh, and the snow monsters, snow mensters? Portmanteau of men and monster, because snowmen. No, snow monsters. We'll just go with that. Snow monsters are, they're gonna turn and focus on Ghost. It seems like they are very intent on Ghost and not the civilians at this point in time.
Which is what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably for the best. What are the two of you going to be doing?
So I am going to try and tackle him into a snowbank. Basically, knock him off the thing he's made. But remembering his power dive last time, I'm going to basically try and sort of land on his back, push him off or through his snow chute and into a snowbank, so that, you know, I'm not trying to completely hurt him, but I am trying to throw him off what he's doing and grapple him. As for the attack on me, I will use my aerial combat dodge.
Okay.
So.
All right. What about you, Ghost?
Ghost is going to basically try and dismantle the snow monsters. Hit them with the staff, try and, you know, maybe do one of those fancy, you know, twirl it in your fingers thing, something that just spin them up and break them apart. See if that clears out monster after monster.
Okay. So in that case, let's get an action from you first. For your... So this is going to be a strength action using your martial arts weapons.
Yep.
Okay. It's a pretty good start. Ooh. I like that.
I mean, that's... With the strength on there, that puts me at a 17, plus 1 for my bow staff using it, or, yeah, plus 1 for the bow staff. So, 18.
Okay. Yeah, you... Okay. So actually, we'll go into the outcome of that here in a moment. I'm going to move these over here just to reflect that you played them. I'm going to make... So... That's going to be the staging area for Amber's cards. This is going to go here. Actually, so you won't technically draw back just yet. So I'm going to snag that card from you, and I'm just going to recall it into my hands. And then there we go. Okay. So yeah, you won't redraw any of the cards you play here until the end of the round.
Okay.
But we're going to keep these over here just for reference so we know what you played. Amber, go ahead and give me an action for you basically dive bomb tackling him. This is going to be... you have aerial combat, so this is going to be an agility action for you.
Okay. Actually, I was going to do this as a wrestling, and then save my aerial combat for dodging. Because I am trying to grapple him.
Yes, but the thing is with aerial combat, that specifically is when you're in flight you would use that. But okay, sure, make it a strength action, I guess.
Okay. I was just thinking, because I know you can't use the same skill for both, so that's...
You can use the same skill in theory. You can't use the same power.
Ah, okay. So, alright. So if it's strength action, I will go ahead and use the 9. And then add another 9 for 18 plus 14 is 32.
Jeez.
All right, so okay, yeah. So you will definitely grab a hold of him. That's not going to be a problem, and we'll move these over to the side just a little bit, right there. All right, I'm going to play one of the Doom cards that I have, which is Mastery, because he is really, really good with his powers. So, what that means is you will grab onto him, but then he is going to essentially encase both you and himself in ice.
Okay.
And that is going to be for a total of... What's that? So that's a 4, and that's a... Okay, so that's going to be a total of a 22
Ooh.
to encase you in ice.
And can I do any sort of defense against that?
If you can, if you would like to let him go.
Okay, no.
So
No,
he was just quick enough on the draw that when you grabbed him, he was like, okay, well I guess this makes this easier. And instead of trying to get you encased in ice from afar, he just basically just encases the two of you.
Right.
All right, so that will be that, and then the other guys are going to swing at Ghost. I'm going to need an action from you to get out of the way of these guys, as they basically, some of them fling shards of ice at you. One of them comes over and tries to clobber you with its big snow arms.
Yeah.
And it's going to require either an acrobatics or a phasing action.
She's gonna just phase.
Okay. Yeah, so that's agility.
Make that happen. So 11 and 9, that's a 20.
11 and... actually, you're using your phasing, not your agility, right?
Yeah, my phasing's at 10. Oh, so yeah, 10, so 21.
21, okay. 21. I thought maybe I did my math wrong.
No, you're right, I was wrong.
So...
looked at the wrong number.
They're doing that. Okay. So there are how many of these? 6 of them. So yeah, that is going to effectively miss. You basically phase kind of right at the perfect time. The shards of ice go through you. The guy clobbers, some of the ice under your feet kind of shatters, and then he kind of rears back up, and you kind of go corporeal again and manage to avoid that assault. All right. So now we're going to I'm going to discard that, and so as you phase through these attacks, and you kind of spin your staff, and you hit one, and it kind of the impact kind of sends you skidding a little bit on the ice, but you manage to turn that into kind of a little bit of a spin, and you smash another one with your staff. So you've taken out 2 of the 6 of them, Amber,
Okay.
you have Froststorm basically in sort of a bear hug. You're both encased in ice. It is very cold. You are not going to take any damage, but the next round, if you want to do anything, you're going to have to break out of the ice, which probably isn't going to be very difficult for you, but it's going to stall you for a round. Are you trying to inflict damage on Froststorm?
No, I'm trying
Okay.
to keep him from doing anything, but I will ask this.
Mm-hmm.
Without breaking free of the ice, can I fly?
It'll be more difficult, but yes, we'll say yes.
Okay, because what I remember is that last time I fought him, when he left the area, everything started melting. So,
That is true.
presuming they've informed Amber where to dispose of wayward supervillains, she is going to start flying in that direction. Because not only does she have him grabbed, we're encased in ice, so it's even harder for him to get away.
Okay. So in that case, I'm going to discard that. Both of you can go and draw your cards back, because neither of you took damage this turn, so you're back up to your full hand.
And basically, as she's flying away, she'll shout back at Ghost, "Be right back!"
Ghost cannot hear you because you are encased in ice and up in the air.
Okay.
My brain immediately went to those old, fake flying an ice cube games.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at, and now it's actually flying away.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm definitely going to make use of this event. That's good. Natural disaster. That plays right into Froststorm. Okay, so, Amber, you're going to fly away with Froststorm.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that as you are flying away with him, you notice that the ice and rain that are falling in that area seems to not necessarily be the biggest deal. Obviously, the sudden change in temperature, there are some glass or windows that are cracking, even some concrete and stuff like that. You can hear it and whatnot. The real problem, though, is at the edges where things are they've been super cooled, and then they're heating up almost immediately because that drop in temperature is kind of being counteracted by the Portland sun in the middle of summer, where it is there are actually a couple of buildings. They're probably a little bit on the older side anyways, but this sudden weird shift very abruptly seems to be causing the building to start to have some structural issues. And so you're going to be faced with a choice of, are you going to let Froststorm go and save the building, or are you going to bring Froststorm back into custody? Ghost, the ice monsters are continuing to try and attack you. They don't seem like they have the most creative battle plan. They're basically just smashing away. They're kind of mindless snow automatons. Snowtomatons. So yeah.
Automaton.
What are the two of you going to do for your actions?
So, the building is starting to lose structural integrity.
Yep. Basically, a huge crack runs up, kind of follows some of the seams in the bricks, and one whole side of the building kind of sags forward, and it looks like it's going to continue in that direction unless something is done about it.
Alright, address. There was an address mentioned. Maybe she left a note somewhere, and I'm just gonna start wandering the room, trying to see if she left something for me to find.
While KJ is doing that, Dr. Scott is going to try and find maybe some genetic material for Mandrake.
Okay.
Some more.
Didn't I get genetic material for someone else?
You got Mandrake.
You got Mandrake.
I did get Mandrake.
Yeah. You can give me a...
Always good to have more.
Can never have too much genetic material. Ooh, no, I don't like the way that sounds. Not going to finish that statement. Okay, let's see here. I want to say this is going to be a willpower action because it's like investigative, observation-y type stuff. So yeah, go ahead and give me that while KJ is sort of looking around for any other suggestions or like leads. I mean.
Did you say this is a willpower action?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Can I make use of my leadership to maybe swap some cards so I have a willpower thing?
Yeah, if you want to take a minute to kind of like talk with KJ, coordinate and everything like that, you can totally do that.
I'll tell him what he's looking for or something and get him to really focus on finding some might be some leavings of genetic material while he's looking for his note.
All right, go ahead and give me a willpower action for the leadership.
Okay. I guess I will just straight up throw out.
I will say the difficulty is not terribly high. Any of the cards that you have, honestly, you succeed no matter what, but you still need to play a card for it.
Okay, fair enough. I will just throw out this 3 of agility then.
All right. So in that case, go ahead and draw a card back, and the two of you can trade one card between the two of you.
Oh, look, I got a willpower card anyway.
Well, you don't have to play the card. You can instead choose to give the both of you a +1 bonus to any action related to succeeding at what you're trying to do for the next scene.
That sounds good.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
I guess we're just sort of quickly doing some quick back and forth coordination as we're looking for our various things in the crime scene.
Okay. So yeah, that'll be a willpower action. Observation will be the skill in question if you have it.
I do.
Not.
Okay. So
I'm gonna put this one down.
Okay.
And oh, okay. We'll take that. We take those. So 13 plus 7 is 20.
Plus
with
observation is 24. Okay. Nice. Go ahead and draw your card back.
Sure.
And then Dr. Scott, go ahead and play a willpower action for me if you don't mind.
And I guess I might as well use the willpower card I just got. Or is there any point if you don't have the relevant skill?
Yeah, there is. You still get the extra card off the top because it's the correct suit.
Yeah.
The skill just gives you a +4 to whatever your action
Right,
total
okay,
is.
yeah. Sure. Great. Good.
Okay, so that's a 13 plus your willpower of 9 is a 22. All right, go ahead and draw your card back. So you go through and look. You spend quite a bit of time, like, kind of scouring the hallway and everything, looking for anything. It doesn't seem as if these security guards, none of them are armed with pistols. Like they've got mace at best. So none of them would have been capable of injuring Mandrake to the point of actually, like, drawing blood or anything like that. So there is nothing, and you are very confident in the fact that there's not anything there.
Okay, that's fine.
And then, however, I will say what you do find is you find some blood from Morgana Fayette.
Okay. I have no idea if she has any powers or anything, but I always take genetic samples when I can get them, so I will take that and I will label it as belonging to her. Maybe it'll
Alrighty.
help me find her sometime.
Please make note of the fact that you have that.
I will.
KJ, so you are kind of looking around, and you do find. So it seems like a number of her personal belongings have been moved over here from her apartment to kind of like make it a little bit more like homey and personalized, including a writing desk that's got a number of books and everything on it. And it looks like it was kind of like really quickly skimmed through to see if there's anything of value. One of the books there looks to be basically a diary. And you kind of flip to the last entry, and it makes note of the fact that basically says like, oh, I was visited by two of the new Union heroes, Ghost and Amber, today. They were asking me about the High Theurge. Kind of brought back some memories of like my father telling me about this guy and yada yada yada. And kind of like just outlining this plan that she had to basically arrange for the Theurge to meet her at the cabin, at her family's like cabin in the woods, but that Amber and Ghost are going to meet him there instead to kind of like apprehend him or get answers or whatever the case may be. And then there's another entry right below that seems like she probably wrote it just before she texted you, saying like having like very distressing thoughts, as if someone's watching me or there's some sort of presence, and sort of just kind of waxing about that. Like, I'm sure it's nothing. It's probably nothing major, but maybe I'll contact. She says Detective Nick in her notes or in her diary. She says maybe I'll contact Detective Nick about it just in case. So that's the extent of what you find from her.
Imagine Dr. Scott's kind of peering over KJ's shoulder at this point and just kind of says, "Oh, you're on first name basis with this girl, eh?"
She's older than both of us put together.
She is. Well, that doesn't need to be an impediment, does it?
Love is love, man. The other thing that you find is in what looks to be soot or something, there does seem to be some sort of small ritual circle in kind of the center of the main room that looks as if whatever it was when it was finished, there was a brief flash of like heat or flames that kind of like singed the design into the carpet.
All right. Well, we'll take some pictures of that.
That is weird.
It's magic, man.
I know. I'd ask my magic person what that means, but what it was kidnapped.
Yeah. Well,
So,
as you are looking this up,
maybe there's some science to this magic. I'm going to take a sample of the burnt rug anyway, just to see if there's anything unusual about it back in the lab.
okay, that's fair. Once you kind of like are finishing up, the manager comes in. Like there's now like EMS is there, like they're checking on the guards and kind of like following up on the basic first aid that Dr. Scott provided. There are cops showing up to kind of like investigate the scene. As that's all happening and you're kind of wrapping up looking at what you were looking at, both of your phones go off, like your Union phones. And
here we go.
They're two immediate like things that come through. The first one is an alert of superhuman like activity, and it gives you coordinates. The other is a text from Deirdre saying, and it's two KJ, but CC Dr. Scott says, looks like your dad decided to take matters into his own hands. He's not technically on Union property, but he's close enough that I want you to go deal with it. And another text comes through immediately after that. It just says, now, in all uppercase.
Is it the same incident as the alert?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
It is
On the way.
not far from where you just were when you met your dad.
You can't just sit still. All right, let's go. Get this dealt with, and we can get to her cabin.
Any luck? Yeah, let's go bail your dad out of trouble. The way your mom always does when she's around.
That's what a good partner does. They bail you out of trouble that you start, right? So yeah, let's fast forward. You jump in the car in the sedan mobile, or whatever it is we're calling the very mundane conveyance that you happen to have access to. And like one of the tricks with being in the Union is you don't technically have the authority to
Speed.
run red lights and things like that. But a lot of cops, they'll have your license plate information, and so they'll kind of let it slide as long as it's not too egregious.
Yeah, the license plate is definitely flipped over into like Union mode.
I love the idea that it's the same license plate, it's just different color scheme. It's like, why did you have that installed? You know that's not official or anything, right? It's like, yeah, but it looks cool when it flips over.
And, the car is in my name, so it's got to be different.
That's true.
Yeah.
You got
Okay.
any other cute gadgets in this car of yours?
Cup
Not
holders.
yet. A couple.
Held out with that, you know?
Blu-ray. Or not Blu-ray, Bluetooth. Yeah.
It was
Is it-
me thinking we could watch a movie while we drive.
A Blu-ray player in the car would be kind of cool in its own way, but although it'd be kind of distracting too. So, anyways, yeah, you arrive kind of at the scene, and what you kind of walk into is there are a number of gang members. Look like they're from some local gang. That are kind of like laid out at the entrance to an alley, and you can hear the sounds of fighting and everything coming from down the street, or from further down the alley.
Is he picking fights?
Really can.
Yeah, let's. I don't know.
He really can't resist beating up some petty criminals, can he?
Apparently not. It's not why he's here, but sure. Let's go.
All right, so I'm going to draw a card, and that is going to be a Link to the Past. That's oddly
Not sure.
appropriate for this reunion.
That was before X, but let's go, Dad.
You know what? Actually, I will. That's a good point. I am going to use that. So I was kind of planning on doing something like this anyways, but I think that's makes it even more appropriate. So it's perfect. You get further into the alley, and there are probably about 6 gang members, and of course Drake is standing there, and he's like facing off with them. One of them's got a gun. Another, a couple others have like baseball bats, and the Drake says, "You're better off just walking away." And one of the gang members is like I don't know. There's 6 of us, and he says, "I wasn't talking to you." And he kind of looks over his shoulder at you, KJ.
Yeah, except I was sent here because you're. We'll talk about it later.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into a round of combat. Probably not going to be terribly difficult here, but a few thugs and goons and whatnot that are more than willing to swing baseball bats at the two of you as well as Drake, because you're all kind of on the superhero side of things. So the one with the gun is going to try to shoot the Drake. The two with the baseball bats are going to run at you, as well as the other three. Actually, one of the other three is going to go after the Drake and kind of like try to throw a punch. The other two are going to go after you. So there's a small gaggle of gang members that you've got coming after you. What are the two of you going to do?
I think Dr. Scott is just going to go, oh, well, and fumble around, grab the kinetic control sample and stick it into herself because she doesn't want to get hurt by heavy objects impacting on her, and she figures this might be useful for that.
Okay. So let's see here. Kinetic control. It's kind of funny.
Kinetic.
Yeah.
These guys are all fairly close to each other, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So Dr. Scott, are you planning on using the kinetic control to defend yourself specifically?
Primarily, yeah. That's the idea. She's not really much of a fighter.
Okay. So yeah, the guy with the baseball bat and the guy that's like kind of like rushing to tackle you, will both have to contend with that. KJ, what are you doing?
Yeah, as they're all rushing, I'm gonna launch just a kinetic like blast at the ground and just try to like both pelt them with Allie and just try to scare them away with just a big blast.
Okay. All right. All right, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to add this 8 of Doom to their action to kind of ramp up the difficulty. These guys are... they're really intent on not being beaten up or arrested tonight. So yeah, just keep that in mind. So I'm going to need it's going to be an intellect action, actually, from both of you, to try and get your actions to succeed. Dr. Scott, yours is more of a defensive action, but that's okay. And KJ, yours is more of an aggressive action. KJ, let's have you play your cards first.
Okay. I'm gonna play this 7 of Doom, and I like that unstable ground. That feels like what I'm going for.
That does. Okay. I will take that into consideration as I am resolving the action.
Which kinetic control, that's 18.
18. Do you have the energy control skill? You do not.
Do not.
Okay, perfect. That makes sense considering the flaw that you have for your power. So, okay, we'll keep that there. Dr. Scott, give me an intellect action as well, please, for your kinetic control.
I might as well make use of my edge and throw these cards out there. I can use both of them, right?
You can, and this is one of the interesting kind of decision points in the game. Is you can use the 1 for edge, no problem, and then the 2 you could either use it for edge to play like the 7 or the 8, or you could play it to play the top card of the deck. Because if you play it as your actual card play, it's the appropriate suit, and so you get more cards. So the question is which is the better gamble?
Okay, so the next one I guess I'll play to get the top card of the deck.
Okay. So then go ahead and draw that card.
Oh, lovely.
Nice, it pays off.
Oh.
Well, potentially. I mean, the next card could still be less than what you would have gotten with just a 7, but we'll see. I'm sure it's going to be great. All right, so, last we left off, you had manage to get Donnie Salazar away from his apartment just ahead of Blockade, who was kind of combing the neighborhood looking for him. And you have set him up in Dr. Scott's lab. There's a place for him to relax. He can kind of partake of his in his vice of choice, and there are snacks available. So he's happy, he's secure for the moment. And then I believe the two of you, your next kind of lead was looking for someone by the name of Susan Taylor.
That's correct.
All right. I think the other thing you were going to do is you wanted to get a DNA sample or like a tissue sample from someone that Facelift had previously impersonated, which you did, Dr. Scott, in the previous session. You kind of sneaked it in there, and managed to collect that sample. That is another way that you can potentially track Facelift if you wanted to give that a try.
Yeah. I'm going to discuss with the compiler about that, actually. So, compiler, sweetie, you reckon we can, maybe put together a little sort of gadget that would let us maybe track like ambient DNA in like the atmosphere or something?
That would certainly be an option, yes. If we have a definitive sample, we could certainly design a device capable of... Yes, that would be very possible, although I worry about the ethical considerations.
Ethics schmethics. We're gonna stop bad things happening to people if we do this, right?
That seems rational to assume.
There we go.
So, to be fair, if our objective is to find Facelift and secure its safety, and if Facelift is currently a crime boss, I'm not sure that... Well, it does not bother me, but perhaps the Union would be less than happy with us for getting involved in such affairs.
Well, what the Union doesn't know won't hurt them, right?
An excellent motto.
Right, let's get to work then.
All right.
All right. I did not write down what Doom cards I had last time, so I guess you will get off scot-free for whatever Doom cards I was supposed to have. But that's okay, because I see 2 Doom cards hanging out on the table, so it'll work out. All right, so you're gonna go,
Yeah.
and basically you want to.
I believe one of them was one of Doom. That's an edge card.
Sorry, say that again.
But if it helps, I believe one of them was a one of Doom because I used it as an edge card.
I think you are correct about that. You know what? So I'll just draw a card to represent that, and that's the one I'll roll with for now. Thank you.
There you go.
Appreciate it. Okay, so
I love making things personal.
I think this is going to be a joint effort. So compiler, I assume you are basically making use of your alchemy sort of transmutation ability to like create this piece of equipment that doesn't technically exist, like tracking a genetic sequence kind of remotely. So I think you would need to do that, and then Dr. Scott, you're going to need to actually do the genetic sequencing bit so that, you know, this scanner will actually function the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to need, we'll start off with a genetics action an intellect action using genetics from Dr. Scott, And then depending on how well that goes, that'll determine kind of how high the difficulty is for a compiler.
Imagining a Criminal Minds style Spencer Reed situation with like equations flying about, random like bad 3D spurious double helix coming off the screen and things as we work in weird sort of montage. Okay, I'll throw out investigator, compromising information, which seems appropriate.
Agreed.
So I will draw. Ooh, it's a good one.
Ooh.
That is a good one, yeah.
So another one
You get another one.
and a one.
Oh, well.
There we
But hey.
go. Plus four for the genetic skill.
Yeah, so that's 5 and 7 is 12, plus 1 is 13, plus 4 from genetics as a skill is going to be 17, plus your intellect of 9 is going to be a 26, which is pretty good. And you know what? I feel like since the final card on that play was Scent of Prey, and you're trying to track something down, I feel like that's going to work slightly in your favor. It's not going to do anything necessarily mechanically, but, you know, I'll interpret everything a little bit more favorably for you guys. Go ahead and draw your card back if you would. All right, and then compiler, I'm gonna need an alchemy action for you. So it's technically intellect based. You don't have gadgetry as a skill, which is what I think the skill you would need to like make this easier. So, although you do have like electronics and mechanics, so we'll give you a +2 to this.
That's weird. I really thought you would have had gadgetry.
No, when
I guess I didn't realize it was an option. I just picked all the sciences that were on the list.
I think
have
when we built your
gadgetry.
character, you decided to go with a scientific genius, which is starting with just intellect skills, but you start with more of them than you would normally get. So,
Is there
Right.
something I could do
I'll
with
have-
my leadership ability for some gadgetry assistance?
well, that's kind of
Is
what
that-
your
not
genetic
intellect,
stuff was
no?
doing.
Oh,
This
that's
is more of a making sure that the foundation of this is going to work. And so you're kind of focused on that more so than kind of guiding compiler. So, yeah.
Just curiosity, is gadgetry not an intellect skill?
Gadgetry is an agility skill, oddly enough.
It explains it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like a
Because I got-
MacGyvery putting stuff together
Exactly.
in a pinch, kind of.
Yep.
Okay.
Some
Yeah, because I
bubblegum
do
and
have
duct
8
tape.
different intellect skills. I've got nothing else at all.
But like one of your primary powers kind of does the same sort of thing, doesn't it, in a way?
Yeah, it sure does.
Yep.
Ab stuff up. Which is quite good.
Okay. For an alchemy action, my base is 10 there. I don't really know what I'm looking for, just based on the standard DCs in this game. I think if I'm going to make this work, I don't really have a choice but to throw the 10 of Doom on the field, because a 12 is not a fun number, I think.
All right. So
Being blindly obedient to Dr. Scott's possibly unethical plan.
I'm imagining it's just his compiler redesigns things, right? It turns inorganic matter into other stuff. So I'm imagining it just pulling things out of the floor or the wall, and it's the wrong shape, so it smushes them back in, and then just constantly like almost playing with Play-Doh to get this design right.
I like that. I like that mental image.
That is some mad science shit.
The lights probably flicker a little bit, and you know there's a weird like electrical popping from somewhere in the wall when compiler pulls out a specific kind of component and kind of rearranges it. But I'm sure it'll be fine.
I hate to give Calamitous any credit, but that is Classic calamitous. Love it.
All right, so that's
I
going to
am
go
sure he
there.
would have loved to have this ability for himself had the transfer worked correctly.
That's a scary thought. Okay, drew my Doom card. Go ahead and draw your card back to replace the 10 that you just played. That gives you a total of a 20. Okay. Yeah, the two of you are working for probably a couple of hours to sort of... I mean, first off, you need to kind of figure out what it is you need. You need to test out that you can actually track a genetic sequence remotely. You know, you kind of use probably Dr. Scott as a bit of a test, and, you know, Donnie's sample you can kind of use that as a bit of a test. And once you've got it to the point where, like, you can take it outside in order to... But it'll still kind of, like, recognize the general location that Donnie's is at in the building. You're like, okay, I think that'll work. Yeah, I mean, it's basically going to give you the detection power. It's very specific to, like, DNA samples that you've programmed into it, but one of those is Donnie, and, I mean, if you're testing on Dr. Scott, one of them is probably Dr. Scott. So, it really is going to just explicitly look for Donnie's sample, like Donnie's genetic sequence.
I think I'm going to leave me in the presets just because if I ever get kidnapped, I know these sort of things tend to happen, like doctors are always getting kidnapped, then at least you'll be able to potentially track me in the future.
Absolutely.
I appreciate the thought, but the things I create with my transmutation are temporary. This will not last more than a few hours.
Well,
Also true.
Maybe we can make something a bit more permanent later on.
That certainly seems like a good option. Yes, this is generally the quickest way to build things, given my relative lack of materials. So, if you wish to do that, perhaps try being kidnapped within the next few hours.
Well, let's not jinx the situation. Yeah, I think we make a pretty good team.
Indeed, it was nice to work with a partner for once.
Well done, compiler. I'll put a good word in for you with the boss.
I do not know that her opinion on me can be softened, but I appreciate the thought nonetheless.
Yeah, she's a bit prickly, but you gotta understand what it's like having to work with superpowered individuals all the time. It ain't easy. Trust me, before this happened to me, I was always getting into trouble.
I suppose I can't say I've had the experience, but given my relative understanding of superhumans as costumed buffoons, I suppose that makes sense.
You got it. Okay.
All right, so I think at this point, basically this is giving you the detection power, probably at intensity 10. Yeah, we'll go with that. Does that make sense? It does. So this is going to be a willpower action using the detection rating for this device. The two of you can choose who's going to do that action. There are arguments to be made for either of you doing it based on the cards on the table, but I'll let you two hash that out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how metatextual to get with this. Like, I definitely do have a purple card in my hand, but is that a good enough justification?
I think it's a pretty good justification.
So kind of talking it through, just to kind of crunch the numbers so that, you know, I think it's good to walk through these things every once in a while. So compiler, you're sitting on a willpower of 7, and you have a willpower card in your hand. Or sorry, no, I take that back. It's not based on... No, yeah, sorry. This is based on detection, not willpower. I don't know what I was thinking there for a second. So you've got at least a 14. Potentially up to... So you've got the 10 detection, and you've got a 3, so that's a 13. If you get a 9 on the draw card, that gives you a 22. So that's kind of your upper ceiling, unless the next card is also a willpower card, in which case it can go a lot higher than that. Dr. Scott, you have an edge card in your 1, and you've got a 6, which is a pretty decent number. So you could have just a flat 17 right off the bat. There's no risk of you getting lower than that. Whereas with Compiler, if you play your purple card and you get a 1 of Doom, that sticks you with a 14, which is, lower than the 17. So
Yeah.
do you want to
Okay,
gamble on it, I guess is the question.
I'll do it, and then I can potentially get some more useful, hopefully get some intellect or willpower cards in my hand, which is always useful for me.
Okay, that's fair enough. And I suppose if Compiler is flying, it makes more sense that Dr. Scott would be the one navigating.
All right.
Okay,
Go ahead and play your cards.
warm that seat up for me. We're going for another fly. You got a heater in the seat, right?
I can certainly arrange for that. It would just be a simple matter of rearranging my internals.
I got all this fur, but still, it was pretty cold up there the other day.
Perhaps I could construct some sort of windshield mechanism.
Let's not worry about it for now. Most important thing is that we find this soccer mom. So I will throw out 6 in the edge.
All right. That's a 17 on that action. Go ahead and draw your cards back.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is basically fly back and push against that side of the building to shore it up. If it's sagging in this direction, I'll just try and shove it back. And I'm going to try and do this without letting him go. But if I have to, if it looks like that's not possible, as I recall, Froststorm is in sort of a technological suit of armor.
It's kind of a high-tech looking outfit, but it's not necessarily like an armor.
Okay.
Like it's probably got some areas that are like a little bit padded and like reinforced and stuff like that, but it's not like an Iron Man armor.
Okay. So it's not something I could crumple to stop him from moving.
No, not without dealing him significant injury.
Yeah. Okay. So does it look like I can keep this building up without?
You're gonna have to give me an action for that, and that's gonna be a flight-based action, I think, because
Okay.
you're trying to, like, you're still encased in ice. You're trying to kind of compensate for that while holding on to him and trying to hold the building up. So if you didn't have the strength that you do, it wouldn't be possible at all. But as it is, it's going to be based on your flight.
Okay, I can do that, and I will.
I will say your weightlifting skill will come into this.
Good. All right,
And it's
so
going to be, I'm just saying, it's going to be a very, very difficult action.
I understand.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to start with the 5.
Okay.
And then I will draw another 7, and I believe I
Not
have
bad.
an 8. That
Flight of 8.
I've got a agility of 9 to start with. So that's 12. That's 21. And if I push, do I get the? Does that count like playing another card? In other words, if I play another agility card, do I draw from that?
No, it's just adding that card to the total.
Okay. Yeah, I am going to push on this one. And I will play that other 5. So that is a 26. Because she's tired of villains getting away, quite frankly. She has not brought anyone to justice yet, and that is just not right.
Okay. I will tell you how that pans out at the end of the round. That's going to move over here. Ghost, what about you?
Ghost is going to keep just smacking at them. How many are left?
4.
4. Okay. She'll just keep smacking at them. We're gonna play this one. So with my strength and martial arts weapons, the bow staff involved, that comes to a 10.
Okay. All right. And then I'm going to need either a phasing or an agility action from you to avoid their attack.
She's gonna dodge this time.
Okay.
Just,
Ooh.
I am pulling Doom cards.
Wow.
That's, let's see, 8 plus 9, 17.
Okay. So with the 17, you are able to avoid their attacks. Again, kind of like using the ice to your advantage in a way. You kind of like, slide past, like, do a knee slide underneath one of them, swing with your staff. You manage to destroy one of them as you slide past. You take out his knees and then swing back and clobber his head off, and he just kind of puffs into a pile of snow. You manage to neatly avoid getting hurt.
Painfully.
So that's pretty good. Amber. Surprisingly, you actually manage to hold the building in place. It's not perfect because obviously it's one point of reinforcement on a thing that's much wider than you're capable of exerting force on. But I'm actually going to say, I'm going to play a Doom card in your guys' favor because I feel like it makes sense here. Froststorm's, while you're holding on to him and everything, you're still both encased in ice. You notice that the ice is starting to actually branch out and sort of encase the building until it is basically wrapping around and sort of holding the cracks, filling the cracks in and kind of freezing the building together. He does not look pleased about the situation. He hasn't said anything. He's just sort of sulking while you bear hug him in this block of ice.
If I can say something,
sure.
Amber will say thank you, and mean it a lot.
He says, I'm not going to put a bunch of people in the hospital if I'm not even going to get what I want out of it. That's just bad publicity.
He's not the Joker.
No,
he's not trying to destroy anything just because. He's
right.
He's got his reasoning. All right, so I will say that you will, after you draw your one card back because you pushed, you will take what is that? 17 minus 14 is 3. You don't have any resistance, so you'll take 3 points of cold damage from being frozen in a block of ice still.
I will go ahead and play the 6 because
Okay.
I keep a strength card.
I need to draw back. Oh
Draw.
my god!
Yes, give me the Doom cards.
Oh, there's gonna be no choice. You're gonna get them this next fight, this next round.
Ooh, interesting.
Oh no.
And
Okay.
I used to read.
Ghost is gonna be hurt. Just to be honest, the ghost is getting hurt here.
All right. So Froststorm is going to. Oh, actually, that's an interesting interpretation of this event. I think I'm going to go with it though because I like it. Froststorm is going to say, a little bit sheepishly, is going to say, just once it gets started, I can't really stop it.
Okay, how can it be stopped?
I mean, like most other storms, you kind of have to let it run its course.
Okay.
Like sometimes if I'm not around, it stops, but not always.
I was going to take you, well, to, jail because I have to, but, so let's get you out of here and maybe that will help folks, and then I'll fly back as quick as I can to make sure that building doesn't fall when the ice melts.
He says, yeah. I mean, I can concentrate on the ice to keep that from. But if I do that, then, well, like some of the ice is kind of like around your faces has kind of like melted away, and you can see that while Ghost has destroyed several of these things, what she hasn't noticed yet is that on some of the side streets where the snow and everything is, more of them are starting to form up. And he says, but if I concentrate on this ice, then that's going to keep going on.
All right.
Not to mention, like he kind of like with his chin, like he points at a couple of the buildings in the area, and like the windows and the doors are like getting frozen over. Like people aren't going to be able to get in or out of these places while this is going on.
You know your powers better than I do. Would it be better to get you out of here, or better to keeping that building intact?
I mean, if you're worried about the people in the building, you should probably let me continue doing that. But if I continue doing that, then your friend might be in trouble.
All right.
So you might have to go help her in order to.
I'm going to set you down on this building because you helped. Thank you. And she'll just kind of flex to break the ice, and then.
Yeah, I'll let that happen without. Yeah, I'll let that happen.
Okay. And then she'll just set him down on a building and fly down to help Ghost.
Okay. All right.
And then, yeah. And I do have actually an action when I get there.
Okay. I'm going to assume that Ghost basically is fending off these things for this round. I'm not gonna require any card play this round.
Yeah, she's just doing her best to take them out and keep moving through each set that keeps coming.
Yeah, like you're kind of like fending them off with your staff. Like you basically like use it to like shove one aside and like use it to push yourself, like kind of sliding on the ice backwards out of their reach and stuff like that. You're not really like fighting them. You're more like just trying to like corral them for a moment while you get your bearings. And during that moment, you kind of notice the same thing that Amber did with like all these other like snow monsters kind of like coming out from like side streets and alleys and stuff like that. It looks like there's probably about a dozen of them that have formed and are starting to kind of swarm towards you when Amber kind of lands beside you. And I think that is probably a good cliffhanger to kind of like pause the issue on. Like Amber shows up, like kind of lands, like kind of ready for a fight. You got all these monsters lumbering out from, the buildings are frozen over. I think that's probably a great spot to leave a little bit of tension.
That is.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and write down the cards that you have still. Oh, you got some good cards in your hand there, Ghost. I'm happy with that.
There's a reason
as
why
I said, Ghost is going to get hurt.
Oh, Amber might actually. But I know exactly what I'm going to do, so hopefully I'll remember.
Feel free to make a note on your character sheet. You should be able to go in and edit that, and then there's a
history box.
Yeah, there's a history box. You can go and you can type a quick note in there if you want.
Okay.
I actually need to poke everybody about providing a slightly more robust history if we're going to be releasing these as character sheets for the Patreon, just so that we can have them like edited and everything like that.
Yeah, Ghost has a colorful history, and I'll get that written up.
All right. I could not believe the natural disaster card popped up while you were fighting Froststorm.
I know.
I think it popped up in the first one too, if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong about that.
I think it did, actually. But actually, so my favorite part about this is I cracked a little bit of his supervillain facade, so there is a chance to redeem him.
I mean, all of the supervillains have backstories and motivations, most of which haven't been even delved into yet for the most part. So, Froststorm is meant to be kind of a secondary villain. Like, he shows up as a nuisance, every once in a while.
Right.
I don't have anything I don't have any major story arcs planned for him.
Right.
Yes, that's going to change at some point, but not yet.
So when we were first talking about the villains for Amber, I think I mentioned the Flash's Rogues Gallery. And, basically how they're like, oh, caught me again, and, all right, I'll just walk myself to jail, that kind of thing. But not so much that, but of I can trust him, I can trust when I set him down on the roof, he's going to keep the building intact. And I can go off and do something else, and then come back and deal with him after.
So
that's exactly the kind of supervillain I wanted for Rogues Gallery.
Whether or not he'll be there when you get back, I don't know. But
But the building will still be standing.
Yes, that is true. So, the thing that I like about Froststorm is not super obvious. But his minor calling is world domination. It's pretty standard, rote supervillain stuff. Like, I want to, everybody will bow to me. His major calling, though, is uncontrolled power. And a big part of the uncontrolled power calling is you want to get control of your power because you recognize that it could go wild and hurt things. That's the heroic version. The villainous version of that is basically Demolisher, which is you just want to destroy things, and if your power does that for you, fine, whatever. He's not completely villainous. He wants to be able to rule the world. He doesn't want to destroy large parts of it in order to do that. He just wants to be like, yes, look at my power, bow to me. But...
And whereas, Amber is hoping that she can convince him that you want all this good press, you can get way better press being a hero than you can a villain.
That may work. Who knows? Like I said, he's got some stuff going on that maybe we'll get into at some point in the future. But yeah. All right. So I've got all the cards written down for the next time. So I believe that we I believe we had determined that for experience, the way we're going to do it is at the end of the team up arc, you're going to get 1 XP per session of the team up arc. And you'll get all of them at the end, rather than being able to spend them throughout.
That makes the most sense.
That makes sense, yeah. And I think, did we also decide that you can't spend it on the same thing twice in a row?
Yes, correct.
So, so just to let you know, yes, I am saving up to get my hand size built up.
Okay.
Then I will probably max out my strength at 15, just for the resistances more than for the strength. And then I'll start building up individual resistances.
That makes sense, yeah. The next, the team story arc should be interesting. I think. Yeah. There'll be some fun stuff with that. So
We should throw in a solo session since Dana will be a little busy. We can throw together a solo session for just Ghost, and cover the fact that she's working on practicing her powers. Doesn't have to be super long, but just you and I, half hour, 45-minute thing. I can tag on to the end of a shorter episode. Somebody else's shorter episode will be ding. Oh, here's something about Ghost that you weren't expecting.
One of those stories at the back of the issue that's oh, and there's a ghost story included in this.
yeah,
Honestly, that's exactly what this should be called.
ghost stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit
That's
stop
the
recording just so you both know.
Title.
Yep.
So.
Just so you both know, I'm gonna hit stop recording.
Yep.
Oh,
Okay. All right. So that's a 3, 6, 11 plus your... Let's see, this is using your power duplication of 11, so that's a 22. Also without the skill for energy control. Okay. So I'm just going to move these guys over here for a moment, just so they're kind of out of the way, and then I am going to need an agility action from KJ. Let's see. These guys would have... There it is. That's what I'm looking for. Don't use this book often, so it's the bottom of my pile. Let's see.
I have this convenient agility card here.
So it's 8 and a 5 and a 4 is 13, 17. Okay. That is a convenient agility card, so you get to play the top card of the deck. And a 4.
Well, that stopped. I forgot I wanted it to. 6 and 6 is 12.
12. And you don't have acrobatics to add to the thing. And okay. So yeah, you ouch. And you're using your energy blast to hit, so you can't use it for force field. Okay. So what did I decide that was? 917. All right, so the one thug with the baseball bat manages to, like, kind of right at the extent of his reach, like, lash out and kind of connects with your shoulder right as you blast the ground underneath him. The blast throws them off their feet, and they basically scramble and they book it down the alleyway afterwards. Like, they leave the bat behind as they decide, like, this just isn't worth it. However, you are going to take... you are going to take 15 points of damage at minus your strength, so 11 points of damage. So once you draw your cards up, I'm going to need you to discard 11 points worth of cards for me. Dr. Scott, the guy comes in with the baseball bat, like full-on overhead swings, like right down at your head, and as it starts descending, it slows, and it's like he's like really kind of struggling, like really exerting himself to try to get get it to the end of the swing, and it kind of like bonks, but like it's like a 3-year-old like swinging like one of those pool noodles at you. It's like a boom. The guy throwing the punch kind of does the same thing.
You boys have really bitten off more than you can chew. You know who that is over there? That's the Drake. Straight out of New York City. You want to mess with him? You seen what he does to boys like you?
Dr. Scott, go ahead and draw your 2 cards back for me, and then we'll go into the next... Ooh!
Jesus.
Just keep getting those Doom cards.
Yeah, you do. That's a 7. So, you know what? I'm going to use the mass panic. I'm going to use the mass panic event because I think that's too perfect. So, as you kind of like launch into your little tirade, Dr. Scott, the guy's he's kind of got his bat up to like swing again, and the other guy's taking a step back. They both look at the Drake, and they look at you, and they look at the Drake. They look at each other, and they also like drop the bat, and they run the opposite direction down the alley. And so as you kind of watch the 2 groups run off, the Drake is finishing up the guy that shot at him. He basically like takes the gun from the guy, throws it, knocks the other guy out by hitting him in the face with it, and then takes the guy down with like an arm bar. And he says, "Where's the Mandrake? I know he's coming to you for illicit goods. Tell me where he is." And the guy kind of hastily gives him an address, and then the Drake kind of bounces his head off the pavement, and the guy goes limp. And he says, the Drake kind of stands up, straight, and turns to look at you and says, "I told you weren't ready. A street punk with a baseball bat almost took you down."
He was just warming up. You gotta give him a break.
What are you doing?
He says,
"You said we had time." Did you lie to my face? Is that how we're doing this?
"No, the tracker that I placed on you. I overheard that you were looking for someone named the Mandrake. I thought I would offer some assistance." And you kind of check yourself, and on the inside of the cuff on your jacket, there's a little a bug.
Real cute. You don't even trust your own son to go and do what he's good at. Because of that, one of his friends might be in a lot of trouble now. We had to come and stop all this nonsense.
Yeah.
He says, "Well, if you're looking for the Mandrake, and if he took your friend, that address should be what you're looking for."
You might be right.
Dr. Scott, you have an inkling that this might be his idea of I'm helping you. I was doing something nice.
Oh yeah.
Whether or not that is actually, shining through, you don't know. But you're familiar enough with the Drake that's probably the motivation here.
Yeah.
He says, I didn't enter Portland. I know that kind of thing could get you into trouble."
Yeah, that's technically true. If that boy sues when he wakes up, we can just tell him it wasn't a union case. In fact, that's what we'll have to do.
We don't have time to wait for him to wake up. We have to stop the ritual. We have to hope that address he just gave is the right one, and it's not happening at the cabin.
Okay.
The address the thug gave, is that in Union territory?
Yes.
All right. You gotta stay here. Well, not here. Don't hang out in an alley. Although I know you like to. But we have to go into town. You can't come.
I understand. I won't be far away if you need me.
Of course.
I'll keep an eye out for the kid, Eddie.
All right, let's go. We gotta go save Morgana again.
You really gotta talk to this lady about it. Like this is becoming a problem. Maybe this is just her way of trying to get your attention, man. All right. Kind of an unexpected windfall as far as information goes, but that's the way comic books work. So, KJ, go ahead and draw your cards back. Relatively glancing blow. After you take a minute to kind of catch your breath, you feel like you're ready to hit the town again.
Okay.
Feeling dodgy. You're like, okay, I've learned. Like, I'm gonna look out for those baseball bats in the future. That was a little bit much.
I need to actually invest in some armor.
Yeah, armor is a good thing. I mean, theoretically, your force field is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So,
but for those moments, I don't have time to activate it.
Exactly.
You can't always rely on your powers. You got to use your street smarts as well.
How long does power duplication last? Do you still have your kinetic control when you get to this next location?
I don't know. It's short duration, apparently, but I don't know how short duration is.
Yeah, I'm just going to look that up real quick to make sure that I know. So, you're kind of at the point where you guys are being kind of pulled in a number of different directions at once, like kind of having to rush back and forth to places. It's certainly the most intensive, night of sort of superheroing that you've done in a little while. So I'm actually going to start this off with, if you could both give me a strength action, just to kind of like not be too exhausted when you get to this next location.
Sure.
Uh,
I use my edge again.
Okay.
Does that count? Do I have to?
So if you're using that as an edge card, it means you get to play one of the other cards in your hand.
Yeah,
and
that's
you get to add them together, basically. But the second card is what counts for whether or not you get the boost from the top of the deck. So
Right.
you
Okay.
could use that as a boost card, hoping to get a run of strength cards if you wanted to.
Oh, why not? Let's just see what happens.
Okay.
Okay. Nope. Oh, well. Worth a shot.
All right. So that's going to be a 10 total. Go ahead and draw your card back, and then I'll need a card from KJ.
I'm also gonna get a 10.
Okay. So I'm going to say that's gonna negate the +1 that you got from Dr. Scott's earlier leadership action, because you didn't you didn't fail it by a ton, but you were both just a touch short on like you're in the car driving there, and you're both like looking a little bit ragged, feeling a little bit winded, yeah, I mean, you took a bunch of stairs both up and down. There's a spike of adrenaline in the hotel with some of the investigation. You went and tangled with a few gang members and had yet another kind of argument with the Drake. Plus everything that happened earlier in the day. It's been a long day.
On one side, you got us that information, but on the other, I am absolutely shattered now. You remember all those times that your dad couldn't make it to your Little League games? Well, that was why.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I'm actually gonna like reach into the back seat and like fish out like a couple of energy drinks. Just hand one over.
Thanks, you're a real mensch. Yay. Brain stuff. Okay.
All right. So I imagine you probably start kind of somewhere in the vicinity of Donnie's neighborhood because, I mean, you know that Susan Taylor has been there, possibly Facelift has been there. I mean, it just makes sense that you would, start there as like an origin point. You sort of like disregard the fact that the sensor is telling you like, no, Donnie's back that way, and that's the guy we're looking for, because that would just lead you back to the headquarters. You kind of like you disregard that hit. It picks up like trace signals, basically at his apartment, and some places that he might have like been to like really recently that he spent a fair amount of time at. You probably pick up like, not too far away his mom or his dad, because they're super similar genetic, kind of sequences.
Oh, and what's this, girls galore? Who's a naughty boy, Donnie? I don't want to see what genetic samples he left there.
I'm not sure I understand. Is there something inherently naughty about having many girls in one place?
Well, I mean, I suppose it depends what you're doing.
All right, so let's keep going. While you are kind of canvassing this neighborhood, it seems to you like Blockade is not around. Like they were out kind of in force, pretty heavy presence when they were looking for Lincoln Davis, who probably would have led them to Donnie. You don't really see any evidence of them still being around at this point. Compiler, once you had kind of gone to talk with Donnie in the apartment, you're not quite sure what happened to Spot. You get a couple of weird like messages that seem a little bit cryptic from Spot, but you're a little bit busy, so you don't really give it too much attention. When you guys get back to the headquarters, there is going to be a pile of Halloween candy that the possums are going to think they have cleverly hidden, probably under like a trash bag or something like that. But yeah.
Well, would you look at that? There's a convenient new hole in the wall. Why don't we just...
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that's kind of that takes up a little bit of time. Like the scanner is good. I mean, obviously, it's ahead of anything else that's available in with these in this kind of realm of technology. But it's still a first attempt, sort of prototype. It's not really been perfectly refined, and so it does take a little bit to kind of scrub out. Like, okay, this is just, he lived there, so obviously there are a lot of hair fibers and skin cells and stuff like that it's kind of triggering on. You are kind of dialing things in and scrubbing out different results. You're like, okay, that's, we've got an explanation for that. That makes sense. And, you're basically left with, one sort of hit that is probably a couple miles from, you're kind of doing like concentric, like a spiral pattern kind of out from his apartment is like the center point. And, a couple miles away, it pings on a result that is sort of anomalous. It doesn't fit in with any of his other patterns. This isn't a place that it looks like he's been to before, so far as you can tell. And the scanner is pretty confident that, like, Donnie is there right now.
It's like we got a hit.
The place itself is an apartment building that looks... It's not the worst apartment building you've ever seen, but it's not like high-end or anything like that. It's very, very average, very nondescript kind of apartment building. And there isn't a lot of activity kind of around it or inside of it. It seems pretty quiet.
Given the scanner results, how detailed is the positioning of the hit? Do we know where they are? Would it be possible to land and then walk to their apartment? I would rather not begin a conversation by bursting through a wall.
The scanner is indicating that they are on the 4th floor of a 6th-floor apartment building.
Okay. You want to go in from the roof again?
It seems like it would be a shorter walk, certainly.
Let's do it. Let's let gravity do the work.
I find that is often of tremendous benefit given my bulk.
Okay, so you're going to land
go.
on the roof. You're able to get through the door, the roof door, which is locked, but you're able to get into it easily enough. I mean, you just grab the handle and pull, and the door pops open. It's not like it's...
I feel like worst case scenario, we just turn it into a screen door temporarily.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like it's a reinforced door or anything like that. So,
a beads curtain.
very, very 70s. Which is, I think, probably in Professor Calamitus's wheelhouse. So, all right. So, you open the door, you descend to the stairs. You can kind of hear like some people in the hallways outside. Like as you go down the stairs, you can hear them out in the out through the door that leads into the stairwell. Nothing really kind of stands out to you. You get to the 4th floor, and there's a decidedly different vibe to this floor. Like even just in the short time you've been in the building, there is If either of you would like to give me a willpower action, you are welcome to do so.
I would love to do that, yes.
All right.
Let's just go ahead and see what we get here. Looks like that'll be a 16.
All right. A 16, so 6, and your willpower is a 7, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Or sorry, a 13. My mistake. I'm bad at math.
That's okay. So 13. You're not quite sure. It's tough to put your finger on. But after a second, like, there is sort of like this spark of a memory, where Professor Calamitous is kind of like, he was going through and he was kind of, sort of furnishing one of his various hideouts and lairs. And there's something about this that's just, it's, you don't think Professor Calamitous was involved in this, but there's something about the very kind of stark, very banal sort of like blandness to the hallway that is, it's almost too like picture perfect. It's just stands out to you as very odd. It doesn't feel lived in, if that makes sense.
Fascinating. And there were people on the upper floors that seemed like they were...
Yeah. Yeah, like there's one of the hallways you heard like some kids playing and, you know, some parent being like settle down, like, you know, stop running around and stuff like that. Another one, like, you know, you overheard a conversation, a couple of neighbors like, oh, you know, can I borrow a cup of sugar, you know, yada yada, that kind of thing. And down here it's totally quiet. Everything is like kind of pristine, exactly in its place. There's no noise. It's like a model showroom almost.
Fascinating. I must say, I am impressed by Facelift's ability to accomplish little within a limited time period. To accomplish much within a limited time period. My apologies, I misspoke. I did not know I could do that.
You got something other than linguistic mistakes?
Well, not a specific thing exactly, but look around. There's no one on this floor. It would seem that it is entirely uninhabited. Facelift apparently may have taken over this domain very rapidly.
Yeah. Looks kind of boring.
That,
Suspiciously
or
boring.
there was already some sort of disguised lair, and Facelift simply moved in.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that shade of beige on the walls before.
I admit I'm having difficulty processing it. My visual sensors are...
Well, looks like we still got a hit.
Yeah,
Checking the scanner again.
yeah, it's coming from an apartment that's kind of like midway down the hall on the left, sort of like it's as far from the central elevators and the stairwells at both ends as it's possible to be. So it's not quite dead center, like down this side of the hallway, but it's, you know, it's offset a little bit from center so that, you know, if somebody came up the elevators or the closest stairwell, they'd still have to pass like 2 other apartments to get to this apartment, if that makes sense.
Apartment 44. You know, in China, that's real bad luck.
I admit I was unaware.
I was also
Yeah,
unaware.
something about it meaning double death or something like that.
Double death. Interesting. Ominous.
Shit, something like that.
Before we
I
go
don't
any
know. I'm not a
further,
linguistics expert. I just heard it on Ripley's Believe It or Not or something.
Strangely enough, I know quite a lot about linguistics, but I have relatively little information about the cultural information behind it.
Oh, well, you know. It's always the more interesting plot. Anyway,
If you ever need constructed language designed, please do just let me know.
he could be walking into, if not a trap, at least a hot situation. You handle yourself in a fight, Compiler.
I believe I have been in one fight in my life, which I lost miserably, so I cannot say that I can, no.
Well, great. I mean, I ain't that great either. But and to be honest, if we end up with an AI in there, I'm not sure I got anything that can really affect it.
Oh, then we shall simply have to hope this confrontation is amicable.
Yeah. If it does come down to it, the AI's there, you focus on it. If there's any biologicals, I'll take them.
That seems eminently reasonable.
Okay. You ready?
As ready as one can be. I simply hope that Facelift does not have Professor Calamitus's same paranoia. In my situation, I would have prepared 6 escape routes by this point.
Well, maybe he has. Huh.
Are you gonna knock, or are you just gonna try to like kick the door in?
Maybe one of us should come in through the window.
I was planning on knocking, but if you would like to go around and come in through the window, I can certainly wait.
How about I'm quite agile these days. I guess I've been doing a bit of PT, so I'm feeling a bit more flexible with this whole blossom body thing. So why don't I go back up the roof, climb down? I know we know which apartment it is now. I'll come down and see if there's a way in at the window. I can at least listen and watch at the window, and then if anyone tries to get out of the window, I'll be there. You can knock on the door.
That seems eminently agreeable.
You did
How
pretty
long would you
good
like
with
me to
Donnie.
wait before
So.
knocking?
Sorry, what?
That seems eminently agreeable. How long would you like me to wait before knocking?
Give me, I don't know, 10 minutes?
Certainly. If you are to come down through the window, I would certainly prefer to knock and be a distraction rather than see you come in through the window before conversation has been established.
Very smart. That's why I like you, Compiler. Okay, I'm off then.
All right, I'm gonna need a strength action from Dr. Scott for climbing down the side of the building.
Out there. I want to be validated. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, plus the climbing skill, 14, 15, 16, 17.
17. Okay.